Hi, and welcome to Module 4 of the Precision Academy for Extraordinary Accountants and Bookkeepers. In this module, I'm going to take you through how to use Precision for all your bookkeeping clients. We're going to cover things such as setup, so how to set up your team on Precision, make sure that the settings that you choose for your client accounts are set up correctly and mapped correctly to control accounts and tax accounts. And also cover how you can add your team members and change their visibility settings so that they can see clients that they're working on. We're going to also look at other configuration settings such as lock dates, how you can tag your clients, the couple of integrations that we have, and also how you can use our new bulk client configuration setting to change the visibility across all clients in one screen. Because this module is concentrating on how to use Precision for bookkeeping specifically, we're going to look into more detail around how to use our focus and flow areas to manage your workflows for your teams so that you have more visibility and insight into how the teams are progressing with jobs that are assigned to them. We're going to cover off the cleanup tools and how to best organize Precision when you're working on your bookkeeping clients. And we're also going to take a look at how we can set up reports using our practice analysis screen and also using Sandbox to review all client work once you have finished processing the information in Xero or QBO and feel like the bookkeeping is all up to date and reconciled correctly. I'll show you how you can then run reports to review. So as I said, this module is going to concentrate in more depth into how you can use Precision for all your bookkeeping jobs. So the first thing I want to do is take you through the client setup. Once you're in your Precision account, you will land on your practice account here. Over to the left-hand side menu bar, you will see a configuration setting area. If you click on configuration, let's first look at lock dates. There are two types of lock dates that we deal with. In Xero, these are called lock dates, and in QuickBooks Online, they're referred to as closing dates. And with this setting here, this will allow you to set a grace period for those lock dates. Over to the right here, this explains this grace period a bit more. Basically, it's an alert that is raised for a client stating that their monthly lock or closing date has not been updated. So for example, if you usually take 2 weeks to produce client reports after period end or month end, then you can set this period to 2 weeks. If this is set to 0, this functionality will be disabled. And then we have tags. So tags are completely customizable by you. We do not create any tags when you first log into Precision with a new client. These tags are available for you to use however you see fit. So here you can see I've given some examples of the types of tags that you might want to create. So for example, you might want to create one for the different VAT quarters that you work within. All tags that you do create in this section, when you run and create reports in the practice analysis area, you have the option to filter by tags. And then you can really take a look at that cohort of clients when you're analyzing the information or you're looking for more insights around a particular group of clients. So for example, you might want to tag your clients by industry. Then you can have a look at how that industry is performing month on month, or maybe you want to look at the types of services that you run within your practice and you want to organize a report based on that type of service that you're delivering to that client group. So you could have bookkeeping or just end of year clients, etc. We then have a couple of integrations that you can utilize. So for example, if you have an HMRC VAT agent account, as long as that client is within that VAT agent account, if you connect HMRC up, we will pull through all of your clients' information and we can track things like liabilities or payments automatically and warn of any upcoming or outstanding actions. We also have an integration with Centa. With Centa, we push over the health score. So when you're working in Centa, you can always keep up to date with the health of your clients. So if you see somebody's health dropping, you may want to jump into Precision to have a look and see what's going on and what work needs to be done for that client. We also have our new feature called Client Configuration. This is where you can check the visibility across all your clients in one place. You can see here what the visibility setting is currently for each one of those clients. If you want to update it from here, you can do. Or if you want to amend the visibility across your team members, you can just scroll down and select the team members that you wish to add to the visibility setting for this particular client. This setting can also be found under your client account, under configuration and visibility. For a 0 client, the visibility setting always defaults to 0 users only, but please do be advised that this setting will only consider 0 users with advisor or standard roles inside of 0. The default setting for QBO is whole team. And whole team is a team that has been set up within Precision. You also have some settings for your team here, so you can have your team profile. You can upload your logo, your team logo here as well. This will be used as a header for all generated PDF reports that you export out of the system. So the reports such as the health report that you might want to send to your clients every once in a while, or if you're prospecting a new client and you want to share a report with them, then upload your logo here and it will white label that report. Here's where you can add all your team members, invite them into Precision. You've got your subscription information and any client activity here. So you can generate a client report. If we jump into the client's overview screen, you do have some further settings under configuration here. You've got general. General is where you can choose to change the name of your client if you wish to in Precision. You also have your tags area here, so you can add the tags that are relevant for this particular client. And here is where you'll set up your account manager 1 and 2. Again, you've got your visibility settings as shown to you a minute ago. You've got your overview configuration as well. Under the reporting mode, this is a reporting period that's used to crunch the insights displayed on the client overview screen. So from here, you have the option to choose the settings here, or you can choose manual and select the period there. However, do make note of the manual reporting period. If you're setting this reporting period here, you'll need to update this manually as time passes. Now, next up, what I wanted to show you was your control account settings. These are found under your client configuration. If you're using control accounts to run data for, you'll need to map these accounts correctly in order to get that data to come through accurately. So here you can see you've got a PAYE setting. You can change that setting here if you wish to. So you can add all the accounts that are relevant in that balance sheet account. Net wages. If you want to delete any of the accounts, you simply click on delete and choose another account. You've got your pension settings. You can also track your director's loan accounts to see if they're overdrawn or not. We also have a dividends tracking. You can also track your entertainment accounts and any expense account reviews. So here is really important, as I said, to make sure that you track and map those accounts. If you don't do it here, you can always do it under your insight section, under your control accounts, and you'll see these little cogs here. These little cogs will allow you to change the information, so you can also update them here. So that covers our setup. Next up, we're going to cover off how you can use our focus and flow areas to start creating some workflows for your teams. Under your practice account, you'll find our focus area. Under here, you will see flow creator, flow list, focus dashboard, flow templates, custom checks, and any lists of repeating flows. The first thing you're going to want to do is create your custom checks. If you click in your custom checks are completely customizable by you. These are checks within your practice that are relevant to your practice only. These checks are checks that you require within your practice to complete your processes for your jobs. So you can see here some examples that we have included as custom checks. Maybe you work with other practice management software such as Carbon or Workflow Max or Accountancy Manager. We feel that we complement these softwares really well. These softwares are super important to use within your practice because they do lots of other functionality that we don't have around your practice management. Because our workflows are data driven, we will pull through the information that's required to update that particular area of the bookkeeping. So you can use our workflows alongside the job that you are working on, rather than it being just a list of checkboxes that you check off at the end of a job, which is typically how these practice management systems work. You create checklists within these systems as jobs, and then you tick off as you complete them. So how we would suggest that you work with these practice management softwares alongside Precision is to keep them extremely high level. So for example, inside of Carbon, your job would say, complete the monthly bookkeeping workflow inside of Precision. And then inside of Precision, we would have all the tasks related to that workflow. To create a custom check, click on New Custom Check, name your custom check. When you're in Custom Check, create your description. And if you double click on any of the words in your description, you can add a link into your custom check. This can be the URL for a report that you want to add to this particular custom check, and it will show up in that custom check on your flow template, where you can click on that link and it will take you to that report that you've attached to this particular custom check. You can also put a tag on your custom check to group it within your client's grouping, and click on Save. To add your custom check to your template, just go to your template, scroll down in your list, or you can search here and add your custom check to your template and click Save to update your template. Once you've created your custom checks, move on to your flow templates. These are the templates that you will use and create for your team members when completing a job. So for example, we have a monthly bookkeeping template here. We actually provide this template for you as part of your subscription. From here, you can see all the tasks related to completing that job. And down the bottom here, you'll see a whole bunch of other options for you to choose to add to this template. Simply click on the tasks and they'll move up to the list. From here, you can drag and drop into the order that you want your team members to work through these tasks. You can see your custom checks are included in here, so your custom checks will also be listed within this list below. Save your template. Once you have your templates created, move on to Flow Creator. In your Flow Creator, you have the option to complete a one-off flow. So this will be relevant for things like if you're onboarding a new client and you want to create an onboarding flow template, then you can do that and set it as a one-off. Most of the time, however, you will probably be wanting to use the repeating flow templates. With the repeating flow, click on Create a Repeating Flow. Name your flow. Select your template. Click on Next. You can use your scheduled date, so you can select the scheduled date. Do note that your daily digest, if you want your team members to be notified a few days before a flow is required, then you might want to select your scheduled date to be a few days earlier than the date that you actually want them to start the flow. And then here you can say the time frame in which you want the flow to be completed. Make sure you choose your reporting period that you're reporting on, or that the flow is relevant for. And then here you can choose how often you want this flow to be repeated. From here you can see you have the option between days, weeks, months, or years. Click on Next. We do have some default settings here that if you wish to change, you can. So have a look through those just to double check that they are at the right settings. These are the settings that are most popular with the partners that we've spoken to, so we have put some default settings in here for you. This is where you would select your clients. Simply click on the clients that you want this flow to be created for. Make sure that the assigned to person is correct. You can change the assign to here. You can choose up to one person to assign it to in the team, but you can have up to 2 reviewers. A reviewer will be notified once the assignee has completed the flow. They will then be sent an email to let them know that there is a flow for their review. When the flow is in review, all items within that flow will be locked. Nothing will be able to be changed. The only way to have items changed is to send back to the assignee for them to make the changes and then resubmit the flow for review. Click on Next and review the settings, and then you can publish. Once you click on Publish, you will be automatically redirected to our flow list. From here, you can see all the current flows. You can see their status, whether they've started yet, whether they're in progress, under review, or complete. If you click inside of a flow, it will take you to this flow. It will ask you to recalculate. So if you make any changes within 0, so as your team members start working through the flows, they may need to jump into 0 to make the changes that the flows are picking up. As they start to make changes, you can choose to update those changes when you come back into the flow the next time. You can see here all the flows are what we call data driven. So here you can see how we pull through the information for each one of the tasks to let the team members know what needs to be addressed within that task. So this is why our flows are really great to work alongside a job, not just a checklist at the end of a job to say that you've done certain checks. From here, your team members have the option to mark something as complete with no issues. They can also mark as complete with some issues, and here you can see there is a comment, so you can comment and make notes what the issues might be. Or there might be times when certain checks within a flow template are not applicable to a particular client. But rather than you creating bespoke templates for every single client, you are standardizing your workflows using our focus area and our flow templates. So you want to create a standardized template that your team members can work through. It just means that sometimes certain checks won't be applicable for certain clients. Once your team members get through all of the checks, they will then have the option to mark the flow as complete. And if the flow is ready to be reviewed, they can send this flow for review. You can also have an overview of your team's jobs, what they're working on, how many jobs are outstanding, what the progress is on all of those jobs. So the status, the progress, how many checks are required, completed, outstanding, etc. When the flow started, when the work was completed. This is a grid-like system. You've got the options over here to build this out in a way that you want to view it a bit more easily, perhaps. So here you can see you've got columns, so you can start to build this report how you want to see it, and you can filter it for how you want to filter it as well. So maybe you want to filter it just by a certain team member, you can do that. The other way that you can use this grid is you can grab and drop. So for instance, I could grab assign to and I can drag and drop it in the grouping field at the top here. So now I'm looking at all of my team members, and now I want to look at them by client name and maybe the period start dates. So down the end here, you can see that Paul has 3 clients that he's working with, the flows that have been created. These are the start dates of those flows. And then you can go across each one of these flows to check whether it's started yet, what the progress might be, how many checks, etc. So it gives you a real good overview of your team's capacity, even perhaps, how far through the jobs they are, the progress that they're making, the checks that are required, etc. And then down here you can see a schedule of all your repeating flows that have been created, how many have started and how many are in progress. You'll notice that within the flow templates, the checks included in some of these flow templates are also the cleanup tools. So with a bookkeeping job, one of the things that you're going to be working through the most is using our cleanup tools to keep an eye on what needs to be done for a client as that information starts flowing through precision. So if we go back to a client overview screen here, you can see the cleanup that's required for this client, some insights around that client and their activity over that period of time. Instead of going through each one of these cleanup tools on the client overview screen, my advice would be to set them up as flow templates and have your team members work through the jobs via a template rather than going into each client account and working through the client accounts here. And down the bottom here, the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was Sandbox. So once you have cleaned up this account, and perhaps you are a manager, or even if you are the bookkeeper working on the job and you want to just go through and have a review of the transactions that have been reconciled inside of Xero or QBO, there are some reports that you could run inside of the Sandbox. So if you think about how you run your jobs now or how you do your reviews now inside of Xero, I've spoken to many partners, and I know from my own activity as a bookkeeper when I ran my bookkeeping company, the report that I looked at the most to review the work of my team would have been the account transactions list inside of Xero. So you can create that list inside of Precision as well via the Sandbox. So just to recap, the Sandbox is every transaction that's been created inside of QBO and Xero. Unlike other reporting apps that are out there, which only go up to trial balance level, we actually bring in every debit and credit that made up a transaction. So you can see here, there's every transaction that you can see within the period that is showing at the top here. Again, this is a grid-like system, so a spreadsheet. So over to the right, you've got columns that you can choose what you want to see and filters how you want to see it. You also have the option to pivot mode any report that you build here. So if you're used to working in pivot tables, you can pivot here. So for example, I've built a few reports to give you some inspiration. One of the most popular reports that we have that our partners use is called the Cost Review by Supplier. And we create this report for you. We provide you, I think, with 3 or 4 reports as part of your subscription. I'm just going to walk you through this report because this report you cannot get off of Xero or QBO the way in which we have run it here. I'm going to show you on the right hand side how we've set this report up as well, so I'm going to take you through that. So we pivot mode this report. We've chosen contact, as you can see here. We've also chosen account name. So if I click down there, this is the account name. So when you group things, when you drag and drop things at the top here, you start to tier the way in which you look at the data. So the first way we're looking at it is contact, and then under contact, we want to see what account codes have been used. We've also chosen under the amounts, the net amount, and under date, we've chosen period. Now down the below here, you'll see our row groups. So under our rows, we have contact and name. And under our column, you can see we have period. So now you can grab and drop any of these wherever you want to. So I could grab and drop my period under row, and then you can see it's grouped as such with the grouping showing the period underneath bank fees, right? But obviously that's not a really good way to view it in this instance. So I'm going to move it back to columns. So then it drags it and it will show it in columns. Now what you're doing is you're looking at this report to see during this period, has there been a consistent posting of data? Here you can see for Xero, for example, for June, July and August, there was a 46.96 charge, but then in September, it went up to 56.35. So you might want to review this just to make sure that that's correct, or maybe Xero has charged you extra for some reason. So this is just a way for you to look at what's been posted where, under what contact, Is it consistent across the periods? Is there any periods in which data is missing? So maybe the client hasn't sent you the paperwork for it or something like that. Now, what's really great about this report is I can now switch the way in which I look at it. So, for example, if I don't want to look at it under contact name first, but I would rather look at it as account code, I can grab name and switch it around with contact. And now I can review all of my chart of account codes, and under my chart of account codes, I can see what contacts are posted against those codes. So as I said, it's a really interesting way to look at the data, to check the consistency of postings. It's easily customizable and flexible in the way that you look at the information as well. And do note, when you save these reports, you can give them a name, you can create a new report, name it, share it with your team as well. This will then show in every client that you have on Precision. So you do not have to keep building this report in every client. You build it once and it's available across all your client base within Precision. Now, say I wanted to look at the sales or the income. So I wanted to do an income review by customer. All I need to do is go into my filters. I just need to change my class and say I just want to look at my revenue accounts. And then here it will give me a review of my revenue. So here I've got my sales account, and then under my sales account, all my contacts. And now I can save this as a new report. I can call it income review by customer. I could share it with my team and save it. And now I've built two reports that I can use across all of my clients on Precision with just a click of a button. All you need to do is change the reporting periods at the top here for the period in which you want to look at the data. So I've got some other ideas that you can build here with the sandbox. You might want to do things like expenses by month and contact. Maybe you want to look at tracking codes across your client base. I've also built reports like P11Ds. So if you're running P11Ds for your clients, the only thing with P11Ds is that chart of account codes might be different, but so all you need to do is just refilter. I've also created examples of sales reports as well to give me a report here across my sales. But one of the things you might want to do, or I've had partners ask me about, is just running the VAT codes for sales just to see what kind of VAT charges we'll put through on a quarterly basis. So you can run reports such as that. So it really just depends what you want to see via the sandbox, but it is a really great tool to use to do your reviews. So we've gone through the setup to make sure that you have all your settings set up correctly for all your clients. I've shown you how to create tags so that you can use your tags for your reports within the practice analysis, and we're going to take a look at those reports in a second. We've talked about how to set up focus and flow templates to use for your team members, and how you, rather than going through each of the cleanup tools in the client's overview screens, you can set up workflow templates and work through those cleanup tools via the workflows. The last thing I want to show you around using Precision for bookkeeping is how you can then look at the practice analysis information to gain insights around the health of your clients. The reports are a great way to enable you to be more proactive with client data, to help increase your recovery rates around the jobs that you're working on. So let's take a look at practice analysis. Make sure you're in your practice account at the top here. Click on practice analysis and practice dashboard. Here you can see all of your clients in one screen. Again, this is a spreadsheet system, grid-like system. Over to your right, you've got your columns for what you want to see. And you've got your filters again for how you want to see it. Because it's a grid, you can grab and drop things into the grouping area at the top here. So for example, maybe you want to build a health report for your clients. You can see here we've got our tags that we can filter by. You've got lots of different information that you can use to build a report from. So I'm just going to scan through here. You've got your bank rec information. You got your cleanup tools. You got your insight tools. And you can take this information and you can build reports around it to help you keep on top of your client information. We also have activity stats. Activity stats will take some of that information and break it down by activity. So for example, you can see things by annual periods, annual turnover, annual sales, bills, credit notes, etc. Or you can look at things as an average on a monthly basis, and then you can break it down by month 1, month 2, all the way to month 12. So there's lots of information in here that's broken down by each of the months that you want to look at. So I'm going to give you some examples of the way that you can use this data to build reports, and I'm going to explain how some of these reports will really help to give you the insights that you need and keep your finger on the pulse when it comes to your client's information. When you build a report and save it, it will be found in your custom reports. So here are some examples. If you have pricing packages for your clients, we talked about this earlier on when we were talking about setting up the tags for your clients. So if you have packages such as bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or even if you just have a pricing band that your clients fit under, whether that's for a VAT service or a fixed monthly fee. What I would ask you to think about is how often do you review the pricing bands that each one of your clients are sitting under currently? All you have to do is create a report that can help you keep on top of what's going on. This is going to be based on transactional data, of course, but most pricing decisions are made on transactional data. So whether that would be an annual turnover, or maybe you're looking at the count of bank transactions to give you an idea of where this client might sit, or maybe you want, with Precision now, you can get a complete overview of sales and bills and credit notes. So you can get a real overview of kind of how many transactions were actually involved within that job. So what I've done here is I've built this report. I wanted to concentrate on when the last sync was so I can make sure that this data is up to date. I wanted to see what the general health of this client's accounts are to date. And then I first put through the annual bank transactions to have a look at. Because up until Precision, probably this was the only way that you could measure the level of transactions that were going through a business, particularly if you were prospecting a new client as well. So I've put that as the first thing that I'm looking at, and I want to see how much has that grown annually. And then you can pull in your annual turnover and how much the business has grown annually. And then looking at the sales and the bills and the credit notes. And then I also wanted to break that down by average monthly, so I could see on a monthly basis, how is this business growing? Because maybe they're still within that pricing band now, but it could be that in 3 or 4 months' time, they're going to need to be moved up. And it gives me time to have that conversation with the client. And what's really cool about this is really transparent information. So you're not just going to the client to ask for a price increase. You actually have data that's showing them that their business is doing extremely well, and that they're moving up into your pricing bands, and that means you'll be able to provide them with even more support as their business grows. So that's one report that you might want to build to help you keep on top of your pricing. The second one is a pre-year-end review. Now, I built this report. I just wanted to have a look at things like my bank recs, like how much work is actually out there to be done for these clients. Now, some of these clients might be DIY clients. You might only see them once a year. But if you see them once a year, you don't have any control over the quality of the work until it lands in your lap. And then how long is it going to take you to get through that work? How many hours a year do you write off over clients like this? What we want to do is get them onto Precision, even if you're working with them once a year, get them onto Precision and start having a look at the quality of their data, the quality of their bookkeeping. This could be a revenue generating opportunity for you as well, because you can reach out to these clients if they're consistently late or not keeping up with their bookkeeping. You might be able to reach out to them and say, hey, did you guys need some help? You wouldn't have had this visibility before to be able to do that. You would just wait until it landed in your lap. And if you're charging a fixed fee, how easy is it for you to go back to these people and say, I'm really sorry, but your accounts were terribly messy and we had to redo them, and we're going to have to charge you extra for that. They are not expecting that. They are paying you monthly because they feel that that's a service they're going to get, and it's paid for. They don't put money aside to pay you anymore. So it really can be soul destroying at the end of a year if you're telling a client that they have to pay you more. And equally, sometimes you may feel that and you don't do that, and then you are stuck with absorbing that cost, and that affects your recovery rates, right? And so what we want to do is help you to increase your recovery rate, help you get paid for the work that you're doing. So if you have visibility over this stuff throughout the year, then you can anticipate the mess that's going to be coming in. You can have that conversation with the client earlier on. You can say, hey, you guys are coming in for an end of year in a few months' time, but we can tell that you're really far behind in your work. Would you like us to help you get up to date with that? Or if they say no, then you have to have that conversation. Okay, but if we may have to do some extra work here, which is going to cost you. Okay, so I've chosen to look at sort of the bank racks and some of the insights as well. I want to know, are there any director's loan accounts that are assumingly going to be overdrawn? Because then that means I have to have a tax conversation with them. I also want to see what their cash position may be. So here, if I add in cash position to this report, then I can see, all right, this is their current debtors, their current creditors, what their corporation tax liability is looking like, or their net asset position, and then their cash position. Again, you could look at this data and see, hey, hold on a minute, they've got quite a lot of debtors out there, and they owe quite a bit of money, and their cash is pretty poor. So should we reach out to them and see if they could use some help with some credit control? If we can get in some money for them, then they can pay their liabilities. So there's a lot that you can do with the data if you want to be proactive for your clients and look for other revenue generating opportunities within this data. So it's pretty exciting stuff that you can do. So it depends what level you're working in as part of the bookkeeping team. Maybe you're a manager and you're looking at this stuff. But either way, it's great to, even for a bookkeeping team, to just keep on top of the work that's coming in and the condition of that work. And then we've got other things like health score competitions between account managers. You can gamify precision to see which team is keeping up their health scores. You might want to also look at annual turnover for those non-vet registered businesses and keep on top of that for them. This is based on a 12-month rolling period. How these clients are performing and help them to avoid any potential penalties. So that's a really cool one. There's ways that you can use the practice analysis and the activity stats to help you manage your bookkeeping team and your bookkeeping jobs. This concludes Module 4, using precision to manage your bookkeeping jobs. Join me for Module 5.